It's Emil Guillermo. People say, Emil, why do you talk that way? Why do you talk funny like that? No, no, this is just me. This is the authentic me, live. Here we are. Welcome to Emil Amok's Takeout. This is show number 169 of the show that we subtitled, What Dad? What does an Asian American think? What does an Asian American think? I mean, no one knows. No one really knows what they don't ask. They don't survey us. What does an Asian American think? We fill the void. Oh, notice that. I went from singular to plural, just like that. I wonder how he does with his pronouns. But yeah, what does an Asian American think? We're going to talk about it all here. Emil Amok's Takeout. We're here Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. Pacific live. If you've tuned in, you lucky people. We're going to talk about missing AAPI women. Dan Gonzalez, the professor, is going to join us. We're going to talk about Pope Biden. Dan is a Catholic like I am, so we'll talk about the significance of that. If you're AAPI, if you're Filipino, for goodness sakes, going to see the Pope and then slipping him some coin and then having him say, "Hey, go ahead, take the host, take the host. Forget those conservative men who run the Catholic Church in America. What do they know? Those bishops protecting all those pedophiles. I mean, it's true. I mean, you're going to trust them? I mean, that's one of the problems with the church. We're going to talk about the Build Back Cheaper plan. I mean, that's sort of the unofficial name. Build Back Cheap. I mean, why does America have to be number one? Sometimes if you take the lowest bid, you got to be like maybe number 7, I guess. So we'll talk about Build Back Cheap and what it says when the whole thing yesterday, that fiasco of Biden going to see the Congress and trying to like twist some arms, and their mansion and cinema standing there like the twin towers of dissent. I mean, they represent such a they're smaller than Asian Americans. I mean, that should be a lesson. I mean, all the people in West Virginia who support them, not all the entire state, because they don't have 100% of Arizona or West Virginia. But you take all of Asian America, and that probably outnumbers all the people who support them. Just think, if we, as Asian Americans, stood up and said, no, we want to build back better. No, we want the goods. We want the stuff. Don't give me 6 trillion and then cut it down to 1.75 trillion. We want it. And what if we stood, like, we're not budging? That would be power. Well, that's what Manchin and Sinema are doing. And, Biden went there yesterday. He said, we got a framework. Yeah. Try driving a framework. Try driving a chassis, essentially, down Highway 5 in California. You get wiped off the road. So you knew it was kind of show, right? It was kind of show. This is the showbiz part of showbiz, the dog and pony stuff. And so, Biden's off with the Pope now. That's his Hail Mary. I'm going to have him pray. Everyone's going to pray. I'm going to go back and everything's going to be all right. Let's hope. But we'll look at that plan. Prof.Dan and I will talk about that. We'll also talk about how FAHM, FAHM, which sounds kind of Vietnamese, which is kind of cool in that way. It's, kind of shows the interconnectedness. FAHM, Philippine American History Month, not Heritage Month, History Month, coming to an end this week, right? It ends on Halloween. You could say, I am my costume. I know that's kind of really politically incorrect now. People are saying, I'm a culture, not a costume. Look, relax. If you want to carry a bamboo stick and say you're one half of a tinikling dancer group, it's okay for Halloween. If you have to do that. Philippine American History Month ends. We'll talk about that. Cuomo. Oh, my God, Cuomo. It's a misdemeanor he's being charged with, but a stain is a stain. And the former governor of New York, going to be arraigned publicly, and the the person who ran the thing against him, the attorney general, says she's running for governor. So this is why some people don't like politics, right? They don't like politics, and we're going to talk about that with Dan a little later. More Chappelle, he was in New Orleans, and I talked the other day about how he's selling tickets now, right? Chappelle in San Francisco, front row seats, $2,000 each. Oh my God, $2,000 each. That's like I can buy 10 Mike Birbiglia tickets at Berkeley Rep. I mean, you can. I like Mike Birbiglia. I like Dave Chappelle. I've seen the best place to see Dave Chappelle when he comes to the Bay Area. Yoshi's. See him when he shows up at Yoshi's. That's a good show. It's intimate. It's small. He comes out. I saw him at Yoshi's a few years ago. I mean, he was big already, but he's really exploded. And now with this Netflix thing, all of it is timed. He's selling these tickets. Chase Center in San Francisco, 2,000 for front row for Dave Chappelle. And in New Orleans, I think last night, I believe it was, the estimate is he took in 1.75 million. One report has it. So he's doing all right. He's not backing down. And frankly, look, I think he's right. Free speech is free speech. He does it. It's if you're against him, if you have an opposing view, it's your turn to debate. And that's the way of the world. I'm not anti-trans. I got trans family members. I got, or trans friends, relatives. But I think Dave Chappelle is actually helping. You can make a case that he's helping the trans community by putting their issue on the map. Now, of course, there's Caitlyn Jenner supporting Dave Chappelle, because Caitlyn Jenner is just, she's all over the media, right? She's not as famous as she thinks she is, but she just, but she is more conservative than you think she is. And this is their issue. She's glommed on to Dave Chappelle. It really is kind of, you could see through it. I just saw that quickly as I scanned the news. We'll also talk about Halloween. Let me get to topic A, missing AAPI women. And that's because, quite frankly, the whole Gabby Petito thing, I was kind of sucked into it at first. Oh, wow. Everyone's talking about her. She's, I got into it because I was into Chloe Zhang's Nomadland, people living out of their Ford, stand-up vans and their Mercedes Sprinters. I was kind of, that's a whole cult lifestyle thing or subcult. And so I was kind of, and I also have traveled through Utah where where she and Brian Laundrie were. And I thought, wow, I mean, I know that area a little bit. But the fact is, it was missing white girl syndrome, right? I mean, that missing white girl syndrome, the same thing. Every time you see a missing person in the news, it's generally someone white. And so I want to mention this. I saw this on Twitter. Friend of mine on my Twitter feed talks about Shirley Duong. Last seen Monday, leaving her home in Monterey Park. She's 5'2", roughly 110 pounds. She's on Twitter. Just look up Shirley Duong, D-U-O-N-G. Mid-length, wavy brown hair, wears glasses with a dark frame. Last seen driving a 2014 yellow Toyota Prius. Shirley Duong. I mean, you look at her and you say, well, I know her. I know her, right? Um, this is from a guy 5 hours ago. LA area folks, please share. My friend Shirley has been missing since Monday. Her car was found Wednesday in the Echo Park area. Please keep an eye out. If you have any information, contact the Monterey Park PD, Monterey Park, 626-573-1311. 626-573-1311. It's sad because, Gabby Petito had all that publicity. People were like all over that story. And the Duong family or friends of Shirley Duong, what do they have? They're on social media. It's like wealthy people who have, life insurance. And when someone dies, well, they've got big policies to take care of, the family, to take care of the death, the post-death proceedings. But I always think it's sad when you hear people say, oh, a GoFundMe site has been set up to help the family. It shouldn't be that way. But that's what happens when people aren't prepared, when people don't have the wherewithal, when people don't get, And so in the case of a missing persons thing, if you don't get the publicity, you don't get the help. So friends of Shirley Duong, Duong, 5'2", 100 pounds. She is 34 years of age. Mid-length, wavy, dark brown hair. Wears glasses. And she's not a girl, 34. She's a woman, right? That's the other thing. Missing white girl syndrome. Gabby Petito was like, 22? So you're white, you're attractive, you're young, boom, you get the time. Shirley Duong, 34. Her friends are looking for her. Contact the Monterey Park PD, 626-573-1311. So I was just looking for things that are happening in Asian America throughout the country. And I know, God, I saw that and I thought, oh, I haven't heard anything about Shirley Duong. And then there was one other thing. I saw this story. And this story is sad because this is the flip side of the Shirley Duong story. If you're in New Jersey, you know that there's been a woman missing, 30-year-old Lauren Cho. She's been missing for months. This is the first time I heard of her. They found her remains in the Southern California desert this week. I saw the news story. San Bernardino County sheriffs on Thursday said the cause and manner of death pending toxicology reports. But it's sad because she's been missing since October 9th. And actually, it says here, according to this report, they recovered her body in the open desert of the Yucca Valley the first part of the month, but they weren't able to identify her specifically until yesterday. Reported missing June 28th when she walked away from the Yucca Valley home where she was staying. So my condolences to the Cho family, who described her as a talented musician, an incredible baker. So they liked her songs and they liked her cakes. An incredible baker, they say. Hilarious, loyal friend, a strangely intuitive gift giver. Meaning she'd give you exactly what you wanted, I guess. And her sister said, and the coolest sister one could hope for. My family extends their thanks. This was on their Facebook page. My family extends their thanks to all those who have waited with us, stood with us, cried with us, and hoped with us these past several months. This is the sad story. When people go missing, you say, where are they? And then usually it's something bad. I hope that isn't the case with Shirley Duong, who I just got the word out today, last seen on the corner of Sutherland and Sunset in Los Angeles. And once again, on the Duong story, you're asked to call the Monterey Park PD, 626-573-1311. All right, so missing AAPI women are, you know, really thoughts and prayers. It's what we got. So some other things I want to talk about. I don't know if our guest is going to be here, but doesn't matter. We got stuff. We got stuff to talk about. Christina Wong is a friend of mine. She's from LA. And if you don't know Christina Wong, the name that I escaped me, she was a writer performer on Kamal Bell's show. Remember when he had the comedy show that Chris Rock produced before he went to CNN, before Kamal Bell went to CNN? Christina Wong, Sweatshop Overlord is her show. I've seen her live doing bits of that show. I've seen her in person live a year ago, but this is a totally new show. I saw a workshop version on Zoom about 4 months ago, and then she said, I'm going to go to New York to Off Broadway, and she's directed by Che Yu at the New York Theater Workshop. And there's a show today, but she's on till the 21st. I think there's a special BIPOC show. I think it might be today. Today might be the BIPOC show, the Black Indigenous People of Color show. So, but use the term Auntie, AUNTIE, 20% tickets, and you can go see Christina Wong, Sweatshop Overlord. A friend of mine, Leah Chang, sent me, put out something showing pictures of the production, worthy of Off Broadway, probably worthy of Broadway. Christina's funny. She is an in-your-face Asian American woman. Funny, to the point. And she talks about how when the pandemic hit, what she did was she formed this squad that made face masks. Hence the sweatshop that made these face masks. Funny show. New York Theater Workshop. Check them out. Use the code AUNTIE, AUNTIE, 20% tickets off. Christina Wong. That's with a K. Christina with a K. All right. And one more plug. It is a plug, really. But there's a fella I know, and we both went to we know each other from political circles, but he's being talked about because he's running in California District 39, which is Orange County. And that is the place where young Kim, a Republican, beat out Gil Cisneros, really by a thin margin, 50.6% to 49.4%. And my goodness, she's running again, but she is a loyal Trump Republican. She embraces Trump, and you think that when Orange County flipped, that would be, no, that doesn't mean it's the end, right? I mean, when it flipped Democrat, because it was like traditionally conservative. So it flipped back to Republican, but just by a narrow margin. And now here's Jay Chen. Jay Chen is, now I talked about yesterday when I was talking about Nick Kristof going into politics. He's going to run for governor. Okay, that's not District 39 of congressional district in California, but governor is executive branch, right? But Kristof is just a reporter, just a journalist, just a columnist with a name and a New York Times pedigree. But I said, look, it's clear when you're a journalist, you want to do more, and you get a sense that it's time to do more, time to be more than what you are, and to have an impact aside from just flapping your lips and giving your opinion, presenting the truth. Oh, truth. But truth is important now. It's probably more important to be a journalist telling the truth than it is to be a politician who lies. And yet, Christoph is running for politics or for governor, turning to politics, because when you're a reporter, you are not the actor. You are on the side taking notes. And at some point, I'm sure you just feel like, I got to get in there. I got to start throwing some punches. So I'm sure that's what Christoph is doing. So this guy, Chen, he was he started off in the college district down there, Mount San Antonio, I believe. He was an intelligence officer, U.S. Naval Reserve. He's running for the House, District 39, California. And the word is in political circles that the incumbent, Young Kim, because of her Trumpiness, can be beaten. So check out Chen. Just Google him. Jaychen, Chen, a good guy. And I have a lot of friends who run for politics. That's their choice. They're called, right? You do what you do because you're called. And so he's called, and power to him. I hope he makes it, and I hope he takes back District 39, Orange County. All right. One more thing I want to mention, and and then I'll bring up Dan Gonzalez, and we'll talk about all the other things. Here's a guy, psychologist, the father of flow. Did you see this? I love talking about obits on the show because that's news that just, it's done. It's not going to change. Guy's dead. I mean, it would be news if he's alive now. No, he's still dead. But you probably know what I'm talking about. Mihai is his name. Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. See, I can't. You spell it out phonetically. I can't say his name. But if I see it, Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. Okay. All right. That's what I get for all the people butchering my name, Emil Guillermo. I heard my wife was on the radio and some guy in Boston was calling it Kathy Guillermo. So I'm sorry, Mihai. I got the first one right. Anyway, New York Times obit. Mihai Csikszentmihalyi was a psychologist who wrote the book Flow. Remember? Flow. Not FLO, short for Florence. I guess that would be like the progressive gal. No, Flow, FLOW. A term he coined and later popularized. He died on October 20th. He was 87. So I guess he ran out of flow. But Mihai, I mean, that book is a classic. And it says that when you are in flow, you are in the zone, you are in that place. I think sometimes, he articulated what it was that was happening. He says, according to Clay Risen's obit, Flow brought to a general readership the idea that he and other psychologists had been developing for decades. He was not the only person to recognize that people can fall into states of intense focus. He was the first to explain how they did so in empirical terms. Flow, he argued, was a state of mind, a level of concentration in which outside stimuli, even time itself, seem to fall away. When you're in flow, right? When you're in the zone. Sometimes, like when I do this show, you're just in the flow. But he said flow can't be forced. right? Because flow is flow. If you're forcing flow, you might as well it's like can't force flow. Flow is flow. Anyway, Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, 87, father of flow. I know exactly where that book is in my library. I know exactly where it is on my Kindle. So when I saw that he died, I said, "Well, flow. The guy who did flow, the guy who created the zone, and everyone just glommed onto that idea, like NFL coaches and athletes. And the idea really is just that your sense of concentration is so intense that you are there. I have another person I follow who calls it the global unfixated state, where you are just in the moment, which is a kind of meditative state. Anyway, one more chance to say his name. Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. May he rest in peace with all his syllables. I read his book at least. Flow. All right, now we're going to bring in our guest, Daniel Phil Gonzalez. Hi, Dan.
Good afternoon, sir. Nice to
Hey,
see you. Nice to see you.
Dan.
Thanks
Yeah,
for having me.
oh yeah, it's good to see you all the time. Daniel Phil, as I like to call him, is the professor, one of the group of people in 1968 who formed the first College of Ethnic Studies, the Asian American Studies, Filipino American Studies at San Francisco State University out of the Great Strike in 1968. So, Dan, uh, thank you for joining us. Lots of things to talk about. First of all, one of the things you're Filipino, I'm Filipino. We've known each other a long time. We're also both Catholics. You went to a Jesuit school. Joe Biden.
You went to the opposite Jewish school.
I went to, it wasn't Jewish. There was a lot. There were a lot of everyone there, Asians and Jews and everyone. Very diverse school. But you went to a Jesuit school. There was Pope Biden, or Biden with the Pope.
Oh gosh.
What is your feeling about old Pope Biden? I mean, I said yesterday that must have been his Hail Mary when he didn't get when he didn't get what he wanted out of Congress. But
I
now
was
he's
listening. I was listening to that. I thought
yeah.
that was a little on the line. That's not bad,
Oh,
but
wait, well, look, all right, look, we're both Catholic. If
yeah,
you went to see the
I'm a,
Pope,
I'm a bad Catholic. I'm a
all
Kennedy
right,
Catholic.
we're like,
I'm not quite as horny as Jack was, but
no, but we're on the spectrum.
there
That's
was
the
a
thing.
time.
We're on the spectrum of,
Okay.
of Catholicism.
Yes. And
Sometimes I'm more
we might
devout.
not be great practitioners, but we do well. In a way, we are great practitioners. We
Yeah,
we we don't do the sacraments with the regimentation that you're required to, but I think we. I know you really well. It's been many decades,
no, look,
and you
yeah,
you really try to practice true Christian values as we were taught them, and
yeah,
so do I. So do
yeah.
I.
You
Except for the
don't have
language. Every time, I'm a little vulgar at times, but
vulgar, yeah, sometimes.
vulgar.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, we have the values, right?
Absolutely.
That's what Nancy Pelosi said about the framework. Well, it's not all there, but the values are there. The things that we want aren't there, but we have the values. All
I
right,
call
but
her the
anyway,
mage of Congress.
yeah. Well, tell me all right, so if you went to see the Pope, what would you ask for? And because so Biden goes to see the Pope, and the big issue is the conservative bishops here in the United States want to take away his rights to communion because
Right.
they because of his abortion stand. But I mean, I guess that would be it's essentially you go see the Pope. It's like going to confession, right?
Well, there's this matter of church and state,
Mhm.
and as long it would be interesting to see. Let's look into the future a little bit. It would be interesting to see if the Supreme Court throttles back, right, the abortion case even further, or like many people fear, right, uh, people who are pro-abortion or pro-choice, that they might totally eliminate Roe. right?
Yeah.
And so there are certainly enough justices who we know uh, are probably, very probably, highly, with great probability, anti-abortion, for
Yeah.
them to make such a decision. And it would not only be interesting to see what their rationale was, because with regard to the Texas case, there was no rationale. There's
All
absolutely no
right,
no judicial rationale.
yeah,
It's just, nah, we don't want to decide that. That was the rationale, you know.
but Dan, that really is an aside. You're the president. You're going to see the Pope. There's no separation of church and state. He's a Catholic president. He's going to see the Pope. Wouldn't you want to say, "Hey, Pope, how about a few Hail Marys for me? Give me a few." That's that. You're not.
Yeah,
He,
but
the
for
Pope
what?
has nothing
What
to
Hail
do
Marys
with
for what though? You
for
know?
life. For life, just let good
Yeah.
things happen. Bring me miracles, Pope. El Papa, bring me miracles.
The way that Democrats are acting right now, definitely going to need some miracles, you know.
They
So,
need to. But I look. If you
but
went to
this is
see the
all predictable Democratic behavior, you
yeah,
know.
all right, but Dan, really, seriously, if you went to see the Pope and you're Catholic, I'm Catholic, what would you say? Wouldn't you say, "Come on, Pope, throw me some bone, throw me a
No,
bone"?
I think he probably did. I mean, you know,
Yeah,
he's going to ask to get blessed, of course. I mean, he's very devout.
yeah.
He is
Look,
not a Kennedy Catholic. He's very, very devout.
yeah, he
Uh,
did. He did ask him to bless. I think bless a rosary,
yeah,
and
yeah. I hope his exchange of presents was better than Johnson's. You know.
well, well. Look. They kind of know each, or they've met each other
Yeah,
before,
before that's true.
and also, the Pope said you can go ahead and according to Biden, he said you can go ahead and have communion. Now, I didn't get advice from a pope, but I got advice about something that wasn't exactly cool with the church, and my my parish vicar, the late Father Declan, of the Oakland diocese, he said, "You go ahead. You want communion? You get that communion." And he
And
blessed
and
me.
and you asked in regard to your position on pro-choice or something like that.
Well, in regards to something that I may have done that wasn't exactly church kosher, right? And he just said, "Look,
You're
I'm,
mixing your religious
yeah, I mean,
scale
because
scale of values. Yeah, that's cool. It's
well, I'm
fine.
just, it wasn't exactly pure Catholic, but it was trying to be, uh, more modern Catholic. But also, can I be devout? And can my wife and I be devout and go up to the altar and instead of like putting our hands out and just get a blessing,
Blessing, yeah.
take the communion. And yes, he said yes, go do it. And that's what the Pope's uh
Supposedly said to
to
Mr.
Biden.
Biden.
Yeah. And
Yeah, well, I believe that,
yeah,
and I am going to say there is such a thing as church and state. Where, you know, there are people who don't want to observe that, but the reality is that that Biden can say, "I believe that personally, personally, I am against abortion,
yeah.
but legally, I have to obey the law," and
Well,
that's what Kennedy said.
yes,
You know,
I don't think church and states is at issue here really. What really is at issue is
no, it's an
that,
issue with regard to the people who are attacking, who the
oh
Catholics
yeah.
who are attacking Biden. I thought that was part of the mix in this discussion.
Oh well, yeah, but I'm really just asking if if you had to ask the Pope for something, what would you ask for? You know, I would want to ask him for, you know, like, "Hey, I got this big election coming up on Tuesday, buddy. You know, take
Give me
me
some
home,
help. Give
take
us
me
some
home,
help.
baby."
You know.
You
Okay.
know,
Yeah. McAuliffe is not a devil worshiper. It's the
yeah,
other
but
guy.
yeah,
It's Youngkin. What can
yeah.
we do? What can we do about the devil in Mister Youngkin? That would be legit. I think
Well,
that would be legit.
it
You know,
is.
the guy lied 22,000 times and he hasn't said one Confiteor Deo, much less. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Listen, I just I got a kick out of Biden meeting the Pope and having things blessed. He did everything I would have done as a good Catholic. You know, I'd have things blessed. I'd have him say, "Hey, put in a good word with the man." Hey,
Yeah,
you
of
know?
course.
And
Yeah,
so,
the
and
man, you just gendered God, and that's kind of out now.
oh, I did gender him, huh?
Yeah.
Uh, well,
Well, yeah,
I'm just talking about the latest
we
picture I
keep
saw.
saying in the name of the Father, so
I know I don't mean to
yeah,
misgender
no, it's
God
just our tradition to
or
to gender God.
gender God or Jesus, who yesterday a friend said, "Oh, who is Jesus?" He said, "Oh, Jesus was a well-known Jewish advocate."
Yeah, it's true. So, who became extremely popular after he was put to death.
Yeah. So so anyway, Biden going off there. We have time to at some point to talk about, Glasgow and climate change and all the
Oh
other
yeah.
he's going to talk about the G20 and and the Russians and the Chinese not there. But I guess the big thing before Biden left, this bill, right? The
Mm.
infrastructure bill. Uh,
Promising, but getting losing weight.
yeah, well, but
Getting thinner all the time.
all the progressives, look, I think they got what they did. What they it could turn down your volume just a little bit. I'm getting a little feedback. They're they're doing they're getting or they did what they had to do, which was identify the fact that they're the progressives. Everyone sees Mansion and Cinema as they are the icons. They're like blocking this thing that so I think the progressives needed a chance to say, hey, look, we're here and we're holding up for the values that America needs and that the people deserve. And I think yesterday, when they pushed back this vote, I think it was a good idea. I don't think they need to give Biden everything now, although Biden wanted to come with, hey, look what we did in America. He can't do that. But, I think he's got to give the progressive something before they give everything up in the end. Because in the end, I think they are going to, Pramila Jayapal says she thinks there's going to be an agreement next week. And I think there will be too, because if they don't pass something,
Oh yeah. If they
all
don't
the
pass something, they're
Democrats,
screwed for
yeah,
22.
yeah.
They're done. They're going to lose both houses.
So,
This
so, but
will
let's,
be back to Obama times.
yeah,
The
but let's,
Republicans will just have to be the party of no, and they're gonna. The scary part is that even if Democrats don't lose both houses, even if they don't lose one house, okay, the Republicans are going to replace. They're primarying a whole lot of their people,
right.
and there's a lot of their people who have retired, quote unquote. Okay, so and those seats are being primaried or are going to most likely be filled by people in crazy states, in crazy jurisdictions. And so they're going to be people that are far worse than Youngkin, far worse than Cruz, far worse than any of those folks. And they're going to be more like what's her name,
Marjorie Taylor
the
Greene.
governor of South Dakota.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So you're going to get a whole lot of people like that, and that's going to be a problem for a generation. They get to operate. They will operate in public, out in the open. And that's not, but see, people keep saying, where did all this come from? Why did it? And then people blame it on Trump. No, that's been there. It's
Yeah.
always
It's
been
it's
there.
always been there. It's always been there. Well,
It's an eternal factor in American society. That's like saying the Civil War happened suddenly.
yeah. But
It just came up.
but Dan, as long as people had this sense of we're together, we know what's right. Uh, we had we had a sense of civility and doing the right thing morally, right? Now
Oh
the
yeah.
things that we did morally have
Yes.
been questioned, and now, oh wait, you mean we can slap back at that? We don't
Oh
have to
yeah.
do that. And that's that's your slippery slope, right?
Yeah.
That's how things got bad real fast. And that's one. I mean, that's one indicator. But here's the other indicator that I was looking at a graphic breakdown of the Build Back Better framework,
Yep.
uh, aka the Build Back Cheaper chassis that you drive down the freeway and you can't go very far. But 555 billion for clean energy and climate change investments. That's the bulk, right?
Yep.
Then 400 billion for childcare and preschool, and then child tax, earned income tax credits. That's 200. That's like the majority right there. Children, climate, and that should be the priority. But look at all the things that get short shrift.
Yep.
At the very bottom, at 35 billion, Medicare hearing.
That's right,
Oh,
Medicaid.
what
Yep.
did you say? What did you say?
That's right,
What
Medicaid.
did you say?
Yeah.
We don't care about old people
Don't
here.
do that. It's like you're mimicking the elderly,
I
man,
am
and
the
you ain't far
elderly.
behind me. You're
I
not
am
far
I
behind me.
am the elderly. What did you say?
Yeah, okay,
God,
that's it.
let me turn up the volume here. What did you say? No, so when I say that at the bottom, Medicare hearing, oh my God. And then what's next? And this is something that higher education and
Yep.
workforce, 40
Yep.
billion. They
And it
cut
was
that.
only and it's only community colleges.
Right. I mean, all right.
I
So
mean,
as a
I years ago I said actually at another panel having to do with one of the great videos that's been done over the years about farm workers, right? Filipino farm workers. The issue, the panel was attended by a lot of union people. Okay, and I said, look, the unions have to reorg, and they got to get behind education, and they got to get behind. And I said, free education. Okay,
yeah,
now my wife and I 2 years pre-COVID, we just beat COVID, went through Spain and Portugal. Okay, free education.
they have
Okay,
free education
and
there.
oh yeah, Spain, I don't know about Portugal, but Spain had free medical care.
Mhm.
And so I asked our drivers and our guides, what's up with the medical care? Are there problems with the medical care? Do you get stalled? I mean, does it take a long time? Do you have to get in a long line and all that kind of stuff?
Mhm.
And and they said no, and they gave me examples of immediate relatives and who were treated well under the system and recovered and all that. So this was pre-COVID, and I wish I could contact them. I should contact them and see how they're doing now under the COVID circumstance. But they don't see themselves. They see themselves as being partly socialistic, not
Yeah.
socialist, but socialistic.
Well,
And they
caring
do
for the
have
people.
successful. They have coalition government, right?
Yeah.
And right now we have barely any government in
Yeah.
American society,
Well,
and
this
we
is
still have people who are invested in. Well, at the state and local level, we got government, right?
yeah.
But at the national level, boy, they've been falling down on the job for 40 years.
Well, and you could see it because the infrastructure is falling
That's all
apart.
you got to do.
You just look at the bridges, look at the roadways, look at the potholes,
How about the
and
dams?
the dams. Yeah.
They were a lot of them were built very shoddily. They were earthen style dams, and they were built very shoddily. And then they weren't really supported very well. We had a dam failure here in Northern California just
Yeah.
a couple of years back, and so it pretty plainly indicated that we got infrastructure problems. Since then, there have been whole suburbs built below the dams.
Yeah. See,
That's true down in Santa Clara County,
yeah.
right?
See,
There's all kinds of suburban sprawl that has gone on right below a small dam,
so
right?
look, the point is our priorities have just, when you look at the it's 1.85 trillion. It
Yep,
should
yep.
be 6 trillion, but it's now 1.85 trillion. You look at the priorities, you see who's taking it on the chin. And the only thing you can say is maybe a little bit at a time. You're not going to
Yes,
get it all
I
now.
agree.
You're not going
I
to get
think
it's
that's
like,
the mistake that the progressives made, and I was really surprised that Nancy went for we're going to do them both at the same time. I thought that was grossly incredible.
hey, look,
As soon as they announced it, I said, "No,
hey,
that's
look,
who is thinking that?
hey, look,
Who's thinking
her,
that's going to happen?"
I think
Even
her,
if they came in at 1.5, they're saying they're going to even it out and maybe about 1.75, right? but even if they came in at 2 instead of 3.5, or when people say 6, they're talking about a combination of the infrastructure bill and the other, so and the 3.5. Even if they came in at 2, they would still face the same problems that they're facing right now.
Well,
They would be
yeah,
exactly the same. The arguments are the same. The
they,
behavior of the other party are the same.
Dan, the only thing that they could do really to get past this, it's a chasm, right? I mean, it's not gridlock. It's a cat, but you got to get closer, and you have to say, we'll take a little at a time. We'll take a little. But you're not going to be able to get it all if you don't get elected. And
Yeah.
so,
Gee, great point.
well,
Great point, Emil.
I think people are. I think people lose that idea because they think, oh, we're just going to be principled. Okay, you can be principled all the way to the on the
Yeah.
finish line
You're
because that.
quoting my Twitter account from
Yeah.
last
Well,
year.
oh yeah, because that's going to happen because like I just look to see all the politicians who are saying, look, once you're in politics, you realize, oh, this political game, it's BS. I'd rather be a commentator on CNN, Fox, and MSNBC. I'd rather be pushing the public opinion and not pushing public policy. So, that's why when I talked about Nick Kristof yesterday, I said, why would he leave the Times? A friend of mine said being on the Times as a columnist
You
is,
got a lot more influence. Yeah.
yeah, he said is more influential than being the governor of Oregon. And I don't know. I think that at some point, and you've done some politics, and I've done a little bit, and think at some point you think, oh, do I? And we've had friends who've been elected officials or ran for office. You think, oh, should we do it? Is it worth it? At some point, you got to be called because it's a
Yeah.
vicious, rotten game.
Yeah.
And
But well, you know, I've always said, and I teach it in my class this way, that politics is really psychology. You know, and it starts with belief systems in terms of the electorate, and with people who are willing to run for political office, comes down to ego. Do you think, and then what kind of person is going to run? Obviously they have to believe in themselves. And
uh,
then once you get into that, you get into the possibility of egomaniacal motivations.
you see, look, you
And
need,
the last guy,
yeah. Well,
the
see, that's the
previous
thing.
guy, is a pretty damn good example
You
of
see,
what you
this is
can
the thing,
get.
Dan. You need a healthy ego, but
Yes.
actually, the best politicians are the ones who are egoless, the ones who do it for the people who feel called to service.
Yeah, but
And
I don't think there's anybody that's egoless. I think you
okay,
have to have some level.
I'm talking about the
You know,
fantasy,
see,
Dan. The
egoless people
fantasy.
die on the cross. That's what happens, right?
Okay, we can.
Remember what happened at Gethsemane, right? That's a
Yeah,
that's a
yeah.
confession of ego. The
All right,
man
all right.
was going through some stuff.
But here's the thing about every
That's the basis
successful
for the Olive Garden restaurant chain.
oh, is there that? Oh, yeah. Here's the thing about every successful politician: they are not saints at the top. And if people who get out now, you know, like Kinzinger, Kinzinger
Yes,
is
yeah,
he's not going to run. I don't blame him. He's been beat up. He's in the wrong party. Um, Liz Cheney, she's going to stay. I guess she's going to fight. But the way things are polarizing now, I don't. I don't know. But I don't know about politics. It's easier to be on the political opinion side or the policy side rather than the policy side, rather than the elected side. All right, wait. One last thing about the bill. Immigration, $100 billion. That's in there. That's sort of like toward the end. But it doesn't seem like they're going to pass immigration laws I mean, they were hoping for money for DACA, and it doesn't look like, I don't know, is that 100 million? Is that some of
well,
that?
a lot of Republicans were pro DACA, at least that. Quite a few Republicans were pro DACA. So I think what could happen is if the Democratic Party does not lose the lower house, okay, and if they maintain at least a close proximity to half half in the Senate.
Mhm.
That's going to be a signal to the Republicans that they have to compromise on some issues that they do find common ground on, and I think that would be the one.
Yeah.
See, there's a Wolf, a Professor Wolf that he's got his own radio show that comes on some of the more uh, radical and progressive radio. And what his analysis is really good. He said, "Okay, you're worried about what's going on with the economy and inflation, and he goes, two things are happening." And I agree with him completely. I wish I'd have said this stuff publicly first. Okay, I was kind of saving it up for my class next semester, but
Nice.
but but he says two things. One, the companies, right, that were hurting for the last 18 months, almost 2 years, right,
Mhm.
they're making up for that loss by charging more. It's
Oh yeah.
really simple.
Yeah.
It's really simple. What did the oil companies do during the crises of what, 74 and 78, right? They charged more. They
They
made a
just pass.
whole lot of money.
They pass it on. Yeah.
Yeah,
Here's
and then they blamed it on the Arabs and the oil exporting countries. Remember that? They
yeah.
said, "Oh, no, no, it's about OPEC, man."
Well, hey, here's the other thing that's disappointing about all this money thing. Like, how are you going to pay for it? And they were going to charge the billionaires, and then I guess the
Tax them
billionaire
on
tax.
wealth instead of income because they
Yeah.
never report income. They report like less income than you and I, you
Right.
know?
But now that's out. Right. They're not going to do that anymore. I
Well,
think that.
they're gonna have to do it sometime. How are you gonna pay for it? Somebody's
Well,
got to get taxed.
see, I think and then that's how the release of the Pandora Papers before a couple weeks before. I mean,
Right,
it's
right.
intended to show people that yay, you got to tax the people who aren't taxed. Like Biden said yesterday before he left, he said it's about fairness. Pay your fair share, and it is about fairness. So
It is. But the right has said that's anti-capitalist. That's socialism. That's
so,
and I had these kinds of discussions with friends of mine. Some of them who were also strike veterans. In
yeah,
fact, there were venerated leaders of the strike that were much more admired than myself.
yeah,
And I said, all they got to do is say it's socialism. And
yeah,
people who can't even spell it will go out and vote for them,
yeah. Social. There's an H in there somewhere. Socialism.
Yeah.
Hey, so Dan, in our time remaining, because I appreciate you being on here and to
Oh,
talk
yeah.
about
No,
these
thanks.
issues, but a couple things political have come up. I guess the Cuomo thing. He's a misdemeanor charge is going to be filed. He's going to be appearing in court, get arraigned. I don't think it's going to come with jail time. He could if they threw the book at him
Yeah.
in a year, but probably he's going to get probation. But a friend of mine asked me about this, and I said, "Well, this is really another one of those sign of the times, right? I mean, it wouldn't have happened 10 years ago, 15 years ago,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it's happening.
Yeah. I think it's fair. I'm people are going to question this as a political act, right? Again, it's kind of vengeance from all of the people who were mistreated by Cuomo, and evidently there's a very long
There's a
line.
lot. There's a lot.
Yeah, there's a very long line, and when they tell their stories, it's quite believable.
Yeah,
As you've seen his brother go off
yeah,
live, right,
yeah.
on
Well,
CNN,
yeah,
and it's like, whoa,
I
what
kind
is
of
this?
like I
If
kind
his
of like
brother's got
Chris.
that kind of temper, right?
Yeah, I kind of like Chris more than Andrew, but and I like the father. I like the father. I like Mario
He
a
was
lot.
great. He was
I
very,
like,
very good.
but the sons, well, okay, all right.
That happens.
The last issue, FAHM, the FAHM, which could be kind of like a kind of a Vietnamese
Well,
thing.
yeah, we got a month. We got a
Yeah,
month, man. It
but FAHM,
overlaps with Latinos now, Latinx, but
yeah, the Filipino American History Month is ending, coming to an end. And what are some final thoughts do you have about Filipino American Heritage Month? Because we talked about 1587 this month, when the Filipinos arrived, October 18th. We talked about Larry Itliong early
have
on.
have have we ever talked about why we renamed it Heritage when we originally?
No, it's history.
Yeah. Oh, that's more like it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's got to
not
be
heritage.
history.
I
And see,
say,
here's the problem. All
yeah,
right. There are all kinds of activities, especially in the Bay Area, right, and LA, where there's high concentrations of Filipinos. The
yeah,
West Coast generally, Seattle. a little bit in New York, a lot around Virginia, New Jersey, places like that, and then obviously in Hawaii.
Mm.
A lot in Anchorage, actually. There's a really
Oh
substantial
yeah,
population
big
of Filipinos in
Filipino.
Anchorage, right?
Yeah.
But what I see is a little bit of history and a whole lot of culture,
Yeah.
all right? So people, again, there's a tendency to not want to do politics, okay, which is how you get history. History is about people competing for power, right? So people who win get to write the books. We know that old saw,
Yeah.
okay, but a lot of Filipinos really don't know their history.
They
And one of the
don't.
complaints that the dearly beloved and long past Cordova, Fred
Fred Cordova.
Cordova, used to say was the thing that he really was upset about the post 65 immigrants was that they ignore the history that existed before their arrival.
Yeah.
And I think that's still true.
It is true.
You
And
know,
one of the things is I think they've created that now that you have dual citizenship, they've created even a larger chasm between Filipinos born here and those who are immigrants. And I think that as more of the Filipino immigrants come in and as they have kids, we start to have more of those American born, but it takes several generations before you get a sense of full-fledged American born. And because that's just my feeling because I remember talking, like we both are sons of Filipino immigrants who came in the 20s.
right?
I talked to and we're younger because our
and,
fathers
and and the so-called pioneer generation. I mean,
right.
let's make it clear, right?
Yeah, and in the pioneer generation, but there are some people who actually came and were born in that, they
pre World War II.
yeah. I mean, because some of us who, because of the social situation, there were more Filipino males and brides. We weren't born until after World War II, but some were born before,
Yep.
and they are a special breed of Filipino American born here. And
Right.
one of the things that made me understand our plight more is that when they told me, we were born here, but people treated us like our fathers. They
Right.
treated us like we were immigrants too. I mean, imagine that, and a lot of these people are from, the valley.
Yep.
They
Yeah.
aren't from the urban areas necessarily because most of those early Filipinos went straight to the valley. So to ag areas. And so it's one of those things where we're evolving, and as of course as more immigrants come in from the Philippines, we're always constantly redefining what is a Filipino American. I think
Yes, I
that's one
agree.
of our problems, I think, you know.
Yeah. Well, what's changed is that a lot of the Filipino American 1.5s, right, the people who were brought here at a younger age, their attitude and aptitudes are a lot more like second generation, like ours.
Right.
And
Uh,
a lot of us intermarry with first generation immigrants.
yeah.
That happens within those families have very interesting combinations of cultural and familial and then individual identity. And so these are all issues involving identity. When you say, how do you define what's a Filipino, right? It comes down to identity, and then we have an internal battle. There's actually a political battle within our own communities on what are the characteristics, the true characteristics of Filipino. Then there's also class, right?
Oh,
And
yeah.
class identification, as well as class attitude.
Right.
And upper class has a lot of influence on. They support people. They have the money to be just like the rest of American society and politics. They have the money to be able to support candidates. I don't know if Mr. Bonta would have been as as progressive as he is, he and his wife Mia both. I don't know, and he comes from a very progressive family that's affiliated with the UFW and all that.
Right.
His mom and his parents, and so I don't know if he would have been as successful if he didn't have the support of some people who are part of the social and economic elite of the Filipino American community, who are themselves first generation immigrants. A lot of the wealthiest people in our community
Mhm.
are first generation immigrants.
So you're talking about the doctors, lawyers,
Yeah, the entrepreneurs,
yeah,
Mr.
entrepreneurs. Yeah.
Mr. Banatal,
Yeah.
and then people who married into that situation, Loida Nicholas, right?
Yeah.
So they're very helpful, but at the same time, I wonder about the level of commitment from on the street and in their homes, Filipinos of the working and middle classes, because that's where the concentrate, that's where the scope of our community is in those classes, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean,
And
the
so
regular
how
people.
engaged are they, right?
Yeah. The regular folks, and yeah, how engaged and how much do they uh, see Filipino American History Month and say, "Oh, good, let's go get some lumpia," or yeah, let's go get a halo halo, or let's go
Right.
get some crispy pata or something.
Yeah,
It's like
and then how good is it and how authentic is it, right?
right, right.
We have all the issues about authenticity. No, that's
Yeah,
not right.
yeah, that's the debate,
My
right?
grandma's is better.
Yeah, that's the debate.
Everybody's grandma's is better, man.
Yeah, that's the debate. The debate isn't about history. The debate isn't about Marcos,
Yeah, yeah.
Marcos,
And
any of
it
that.
still is. It is unfortunately about Marcos because they're coming back, man.
They are coming back.
I don't know where. Let's check and see where Manny's money's coming from.
Well, here's what I say. It's a shame that it's still the politics there driving the politics, our community politics here,
Yeah,
because, and I think it's because there is no feeling that we're involved in our U.S. politics to the degree we can. But boy, can we have an impact as dual citizens, not myself, but there are dual citizens here, US and the Philippines, who can have impact there. So,
well,
I,
it's happened,
yeah,
but it only happened once that I know of, and that was when Marcos was forced out
yeah,
because a
yeah.
lot of the politics was being decided outside of the Philippines.
In
So,
Daly City or
Uh, actually, yeah, in Daly City and
yeah,
in the Bay Area generally, but Daly City and San Francisco played a major role.
yeah,
Where was the Nino Aquino movement founded?
right. I mean, you know,
Right here in San Francisco.
right,
So yeah, I think it was Les, our great former journalist. I guess she's still a journalist, but she's working. Leslie Guevara.
oh, yeah, yeah, yeah,
She wrote an article when she was still working at the Chronicle.
yeah.
I still have an issue with the, what's his name, Mister Sharon Stone.
Oh, Bronson, yeah.
Yeah,
Phil Bronson.
I still have an issue over how some of the Filipinos were let go from the Chronicle
Well, I
back.
don't know if it was all his fault, but
Oh yeah, but
it was. Look, it's been a strange evolution for all of media, from say the last really the last 20-25 years, and so anyway, look, I think that in terms of Filipino American History Month, it's over this week, but people shouldn't forget it. Every day should be Filipino American History Month, because every day there's something that should inform you about where we are, who you are, and where we fit in as Asian Americans. I think
sure.
it's important still.
Or do
Um,
we fit in as Asian American?
or do we? I mean, I think people need to see. I think it's helpful to have a month, so it's all happening now in October, but we shouldn't forget. These stories, because some of these things happened outside of October. Leong's birthday happened in October in
Yeah, and
1584.
we got statewide recognition for it, and
Yeah,
it at least made the state news broadcasts, the daily news broadcasts. So
right.
that's definitely an improvement.
Yeah,
But
and
then the question that arises is, why is it Leong seen as heroic? Why is his life and what he did uh, so important to the not just the simple chronology of Filipino American history, but the actual development, right, of Filipino American presence and
yeah,
power.
I,
How does it empower? How did his activities empower our community?
well, don't you think, Dan? It has to do with he came here in the 20s, and by going and being a migrant worker, he got to know the valley, went all the way up to Alaska for the salmon canneries too. Is following that migratory path of workers. Formed the Agricultural Workers Organizing Committee, AFL-CIO. I mean, that's his role is really clearly the merger of Filipino workers who just wanted a buck 40 an hour with, you know, the labor issue and the civil rights issue coming together in 1965. I mean, that's really Don's thesis. Don Mabalan, Professor Don Mabalan, who wrote Little Manila's in the Heart. I mean, where was the labor rights issue vis-a-vis the civil rights issue?
Right,
I mean, until 65, nowhere.
right.
The grape strike kind of merged it. And then, Chavez stepped in after Itliong started it. Now that really is, in my mind, Larry Itliong's the reason why he's important. He was first. He didn't last. I mean, he made his impact, and then he had his disagreements, and he was principled. As I write in my Asian American Legal Defense and Education Fund column, he was a principled man. He left,
Yep, yep. Left and
and so
stepped
we
to the right.
honor him. Um, I just think, but you raise a question. Why is that important? Well, it's important. He was first. He was there. I mean, and what were Filipino Americans doing back then?
Well, I don't mean to question his importance. I mean to question whether or not people understand his importance. Do they just
Uh,
recognize the name now, or do they see the battle that he fought with limited success, right? But success nonetheless,
I,
and it was a class battle. It was a battle for not only recognition of the value of people's labor, right? It was about the classification of labor as well,
yeah,
right? You
you're
remember
right.
when we were kids,
Yeah,
farm work was seen as, quote, unskilled labor, unquote,
yeah,
right? And I remember reading the social sciences newsletter that used to go out to all of the schools in grade schools, and it called farm labor unskilled labor. And I was raised part of my life, my childhood, on the Golden Gate Nursery, which we called the farm because it had farm work on it, right? And uh, there was all kind of skill. I mean, the main resident crew at that nursery, which was really large, and parts of it still exist now. I mean, some of it has been converted to cemetery, but some of that nursery land still exists now, right? It's on the east side of Hillside Boulevard, if anybody's familiar with that area, right? It's
yeah,
the backside of the cemeteries. Anyway, I saw all kinds of skill. I learned how
yeah,
to tie knots, from those old timers. I learned how to ride a horse there. Okay,
yeah,
I sat on the back of a plow horse as a kid, right? And saw these guys, and there were only about three or maybe four Filipino crew members, and they were running everything,
yeah,
irrigation. They set up an old airplane engine and put a prop on it so that they could aerate the fields and dry them out if there was too much rain. Right? They set up heaters
yeah.
in addition to maintaining the animals, because there were places that a horse could do a better job than the tractors, and they had two kinds of tractors: tread
Well,
tractors and wheel tractors. Right? These
no,
guys knew how to do all of that.
No
right?
doubt, it was skilled, and see, you just laid out a history that includes the ag work in California, which is so vital in those days. My father didn't want to go to the fields; he stayed in the restaurants, and he was a
Right.
cook.
Another set of skills,
Another
different
set.
set of skills.
So, I mean, but that was what Filipinos were allowed to do. And now, look, at least here, people can see here's a professor, you're a professor, College of Ethnic Studies, San Francisco State, me, journalist, reporter, writer, whatever. Uh, we have gotten out of the fields. And that
Yeah,
was one of the things that they wanted to happen for subsequent generations.
that's right.
So,
And they
I mean,
succeeded. And then subsequent generations just go to the supermarket.
yeah.
They
Well,
get a Costco.
this is one of the things that comes out of when you see the history and the evolution of the history. You say, oh, well, yeah, they accomplished something for their families. They accomplished something for the paths for Filipinos, and yet there are still Filipinos out in the fields.
Yes,
Still,
yes.
still Filipinos.
There are current immigrants. That's right.
Yeah,
There are first generation immigrants that, but they have it a little bit better if they are part of the unions because
yeah,
there's not only the UFW, right? When Larry left, a lot of people were leaving the UFW, for the same reasons that Larry was criticizing the
yeah,
UFW, and they joined the other unions.
yeah.
They affiliated with AFL-CIO groups. They affiliated with the Teamsters, right?
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I wanted to have a conversation with your colleague Alex Fabros because he was telling me some of the issues with the Filipinos in the fields when the UFW took over because they
Right,
had they had the union halls and they exercised a bias toward the Mexican American workers much more than the Filipinos, unlike
right,
the labor contractors who tended to favor the Filipino workers. And so there
right.
was, and the labor contractors were different from the union folks. And so there was a lot of, there's that story that still
Oh yeah,
has to be told.
yep.
And hopefully we'll get Alex in here too. He wanted to talk.
There are, I always wondered what the attitude was of the pickers, the women, mostly women who were picking at the nursery. Um, it would seem to me that some of them would be anti-union.
Yeah.
I mean, they're great people. These
Yeah.
people are some of the most wonderful people I've ever known in my entire life. They're generous. They exhibit all of those values that Filipinos like to quote as these are our values, these are our principles. They actually practice those, okay, on a
Yeah.
daily basis, and that's what I grew up around. And so I was really surprised when some of the more urbanized Filipinos started coming after 65, and I said, I don't know. There seems to be a clash of values here, man. I'm not getting this, right?
Values and class. Well, look, that is, you mentioned that earlier. That is sort of, the thing that Filipinos now, modern day Filipinos struggle with. And that's what, those are issues that we discuss and argue the other 11 months of the year when it's not.
Yeah, well, you just reminded me I need to give Alex a call, see how he's
Yeah,
doing.
yeah. And look, we're going to talk to Alex again. Hey, listen, Dan, thank you very much. Last question to you. Halloween, do you dress up or is that your get up? Or is that
We
rough?
usually do, but I don't want to encourage people to come to our door this time. I'm going to do like we did last year, the COVID
Ah,
year,
yeah.
because there's still too many people that ain't practicing.
Yeah.
Even in San Francisco. San
Hey,
Francisco, we're at about 80% now, but
yeah.
that 20% is means 1 out of 5, and they just now released the FDA just okayed the shot, right, and it's not even
For
been distributed yet for
5 to
5
11.
to 12, yeah, 5 to 11,
Yeah.
yeah. So I'm not going to do that this year.
Okay. Virtual candies to everyone.
I will. We will dress up, at home,
Well,
and
considering the
we
alternative,
do some of that anyway
I
for
hope you dress up.
sometimes it,
Dan,
it can revive marital relations. I
yeah.
mean,
Happy Halloween, Dan.
happy Halloween to
Happy
you. Don't eat too much
pre-Halloween.
candy. I saw. Can you explain to me why people like those caramel corn teeth?
Oh,
Those
I
things.
don't like it.
Oh my
I
God! Why
don't
do
like
they
this.
like that
I don't
stuff?
like this. I'll
Yeah,
tell you, I have been my dietary habits have changed. They've become more Filipino the last couple of weeks. I've been eating ampalaya, which is bitter
weeks.
melon.
Ampalaya, bitter melon, very
Bitter
good for
melon.
you.
It,
Very
it-
good.
that's
Lowers your
what I
blood
hear.
pressure.
That's what I hear. I've been eating it because it just, there's something about a Filipino eating bitter melon during Filipino American History Month. That sounds, uh, it's
Makes you
kind of
feel you're
poetic.
in contact with your ancestry.
Yes, it's
Just
kind
like
of,
Sam Tagatak. Sam's still alive too. Sam Tagatak called it, and he would do this gesture when he mentioned the words. This is the
yeah.
phrase, ancestral unconscious, and he would
Oh,
raise his hand. Ancestral unconscious. He's
I'm,
a
I'm,
great guy.
I'm telling you, ampalaya. That's my.
Yep,
Hey,
Ampalaya.
Dan, listen. Happy Halloween.
We
I'll,
love
I'll
that
check.
stuff.
I'll check with you next week. Thanks for being on Emil Amok's Takeout.
Hey, next time you're on the peninsula, man, go to Fat Wong's in San Bruno and have their ampalaya. And you can get anything with it. You can get pork with it, you can get chicken with it,
Fat,
or
fat
nothing. Or
tofu,
nothing.
tofu.
And just have
I cook it with
ampalaya with black beans. It's fabulous. Really, really good.
I cook mine with nothing really. I just like chop up the ampalaya
Right.
and that's it. I make maybe a little soy sauce and that's it. That's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
I'm a purist. All right.
Try it with
All right.
black bean or red bean sauce. All right, man.
All right. Happy end of Filipino American History Month.
Yeah, we're looking forward to doing it again and continuing to do it right all through the year. Every day is Filipino American History Day.
That's what I'm pushing for. All right, Dan. Take care. Dan Gonzalez, professor, San Francisco State University, College of Ethnic Studies. Good friend of mine. And listen, that's it for our show today. Thank you for listening. I'm Emil Guillermo. You can email me at emil@amok.com. We call this the micro talk show of the AAPI and the AAXs and the ALLs. All's the rest of you. Yeah. And, we're here 2 p.m. Pacific live until, as long as we can stand it. Hey, you can read me at ALDEF, the AALDEF.org/blog, the Asian American Legal Defense and Education Fund. That's pretty wild. I talk about Larry Itliong and General Colin Powell. Itliong had principles, Powell had medals. That's why I say, hey, if you're so inclined, far be it from me to say, don't do this, but you can always Venmo me at Emil-Guillermo. Emil-Guillermo. That sounds familiar. Venmo, yeah, Emil hyphen Guillermo. We do this ad free. You can help support these efforts here. Follow us on Twitter, where you can also see the show. You can see the show on Twitter if you like. Do you like their thing? Do you like their interface? If you don't like their interface, well then don't. but but check it out. Check it out. At Emil Amok, EMILAMOK. See more at amok.com. Hey, look, this just broke. The Supreme Court refused to block Maine's coronavirus vaccine mandate for healthcare workers. They refused to block it. So I guess there is a mandate on for healthcare workers in Maine, good old Maine. Several had sued on religious grounds. So get with the program. 3 conservative members issued a healthy dissent. And guess who the 3 conservatives? Thomas, Alito, and Gorsuch, saying the majority had gone badly astray. But the rest of them said, hey, this is a reasonable thing in Maine. So it was the 3 conservative justices were dissenters, and let's see, the rest approved. So that just came across the wire right now as I speak. So I mean that's a good thing to cut into our our bye-bye to talk about that. Let's see, what else? Monday next week, some big things coming up. We got Tuesdays, that big election in Virginia. We'll talk about that. Um, and you can come here, like I say, be here, bang the gong now. You can hear it. Sort of like, bang it, hear it reverberate. EmilGuillermo.media is the Facebook page where you can watch replays of this, as well as watch replays on amok.com. Wow, what a week, huh? We started out with hate crime stats and, Larry Itliong's birthday. We move on. The World Series continues in Atlanta. And that World Series chop thing, oh my God. I just, why did they get rid of it? We'll talk more about that on Monday. Maybe the series will be over by then. Well, I don't know. Maybe it extends. Sports, a lot of sports coming up. The Warriors lost last night. That really broke my heart. Stephen Curry missed like the last 6 shots he made. Every time he shot, he's going to. Hey, look at sports, right? Don't get so hung up about it. Emil, loosen up. Go with the flow. What would Mihai say? Mihai Shikzimin he'd say, go with the flow, man. Flow. Mihai. Shikzin Mihai. Oh, I love his book, Flow. Stay in the flow. It's meditative, right? I mean, and that's sort of the thing that, look, I don't want to seem like a Johnny come lately, but, regular listeners of the show know I've discovered meditation. I mean, I didn't personally discover it, but for myself, and it's made all the difference. It's made all the difference in terms of especially self-love, applying self-love. Whenever you feel bad, apply that self-love, that loving kindness. See, I said it. Facebook shouldn't be Meta, M-E-T-A. It should be Meta, M-E-T-T-A. Loving kindness. If they approach business with a sense of loving kindness, they wouldn't be the crappy company they are now. And I say that as a person on Facebook now. But they have some problems. How do you make money and still be a good person? You could. I mean, do you have to make $86 billion? I mean, a year? I mean, really? I mean, does it have to be unfettered capitalism? Can't you just have fettered capitalism? Isn't that enough? Anyway, Meta, M-E-T-T-A, loving kindness. That would have been better. But we don't get that. So we make do. Anyway, if you've reached this part of the show, I get kind of meditative here. And I say, thank you. Thank you for being here. And as I wish for me, I wish for you. May you be safe. May you be healthy. May you be happy. And may you live with ease. See all the shows on the weekend, binge, listen, watch. They're all on all the different platforms. Till next time, Emil Guillermo here. Mahal Gita.